be seated. Thank you, Lord. All right. So tonight, I want, even I said it on Sunday, I do want to deal with the subject matter, the remnant and the sudden move of God. The remnant, and there's a sub-thought, God will move suddenly. God will move suddenly. And so we see there are different times in the scripture where you see the Lord making sudden moves, and you could go through a lot of instances. But in this particular passage that we read, and I want to go to it in Second Chronicles, it actually states that reality that God, it was a sudden move of the Lord. In Second Chronicles 29, verse 36. And just that one verse, and then we'll move on from there. And Hezekiah rejoiced, read, and all the people that God had prepared the people, for the thing was done suddenly. And that's really where we want to deal with really what he said there, how God prepared the people. I said a sub-thought, it is God will move suddenly. It's not just a sub-thought, but it's really a statement of truth. A statement that can give hope. It can give hope that, and we talk what suddenly, the definition, one small definition to suddenly is when something happens quickly and without warning, and often in an unexpected manner. So it happened quick. There was no trumpet sound before it. It just happened, and it wasn't expected. Not like that. And so it's suddenly. It happened suddenly. And like for an encouragement to know that you can look around and see. When we look around and see, we don't see any evidence of God fixing this. Because it seems like things get worse and worse, not only in the world, but even in the church. Same thing, the condition, it just seems to get worse and worse. There's there's no revival. It's just decline. And the nation it's like our nation is in a chaotic place, but it's not just our nation, many nations in the world. It's been and it is in a chaotic place. And it's enough for some people just to say, forget it, But to say forget it puts us in a bad place with God, because God isn't finished. We're just a generation of the church in this generation, and God is still, his purpose still stands out to him, and it must move forward. We always say that God is headed somewhere, and he is. He made this world for a purpose, not for it to go through these cycles and eventually no longer exist. That would be like a failed project. And God, there's no failure in God. So when he made the earth, he had a purpose in his mind, and he's going to fulfill it. And so now we're in this state where sin is in the world. And so we see the Lord moving progressively towards his place. And at times it looks like God isn't moving at all. And I think we found that out about the Lord, is that he will wait us out, and wait on the next generation. And so because he's going to get his work done, it's going to happen. It's an honor. It's an honor when God invites us in to participate. And when God chooses us to be used in advancing his cause, his purpose. I mean, that's an honor. And when he gives gifts and so on, and that it's an honor that God does this. And so we have to be ready to move with God. And so be encouraged that it's not what it looks like. to God. God isn't looking at the situation and saying, look like it's not going to work. He's not bothered on that level like that. He's not discouraged. He does get angry because the ones he chose at a given time fail him. Surely it angers God. God has been brought to anger numerous times in the scripture, and we've seen the outcome. And no one likes it when God is angry. But good thing about it, his anger endures but a moment. In his favor is life. So favor is coming after anger. Thank God. Weeping may endure for night, but joy cometh in the morning. So it's always a morning with God. Always a morning. And so be encouraged, because there are the suddenlies of God. When God moves suddenly, unexpectedly, without warning, and quickly. And it's like, wow, look what God just did. And so it's the suddenlies of God. And so we look for the suddenly of God. And so when I thought about this earlier today, I said suddenly comes when God moves, when it's a suddenly of God, that means God is making one of his sudden moves. It's like, what's the reason for it? Why is he doing this when we are truly, not only are we undeserving, we are very undeserving, very unworthy of him to do it. There's no, from our standpoint, no one's qualified. And so God, but yet here comes God in a move. And so, but there's a reason. The reason is not us, the reason is God. And so I looked at it in these three ways, and it could even go more. But the reasons why God will move suddenly, I think number one is he's ready to move. He's ready. He planned it. He planned, I'm going to move on this day, this time, this year. I'm going to move. So it's God's ready. And when God is ready, nothing's going to stop God, because God has made decrees. He's declared the end from the beginning. So he's not surprised by anything. And if God did not intervene in the affairs of man, his purpose would never be fulfilled, because man would not voluntarily do it. Man will follow his own ways. And so God has to intervene in the affairs of man. He has to harden hearts, soften hearts, change minds. God does all that. And so we can rest in that. Remember Pharaoh, right? He raised him up. He said, for this reason right here. God was ready. When God was ready, then he moved on Egypt, but he had built Pharaoh up for this time. What was God doing? He was setting a stage for his glory on a global level. And so, but he'd already planned that. And so when Israel were in Egypt all those years, God wasn't bothered. He knew they were there. And he waited on, and at that certain point, he let enough pressure come for the cry. That means they'll be willing to go. So God prepared them, caused them to be willing to go. And so here comes the Lord, and he brings them out of Egypt with mighty power. And this power was exerted upon Pharaoh and his people, his army. Not only his army, but his people. All the plagues, and finally the Red Sea. And then his fame went before him, before the people. And wherever they went, God's glory was known. And so he works this thing. He works it. I would look at it that Moses, it was a sudden move. For him to address Moses, all of a sudden there's a voice there, there's a bush burning that won't consume. Just all of a sudden, he's just doing his normal thing every day, probably in that same area and so on. And all of a sudden, you look and there's a bush burning, and God makes this move. God's ready. God is ready. So that's the first reason why God will move suddenly, because he's ready. The second reason I would look at is people are prepared for him to move. The people are prepared. They may not know they're prepared, but they are prepared. And how did they become prepared? God prepared them. God prepared them. God works behind the scenes. And he's working just like right now, God is working on people. He's working on people right now. And people that he's working on, a lot of the people he's working on don't know that's what he's doing. He's preparing them for a move. He's preparing them to participate in what he's going to do. And throughout the history of dealing with man, this is how God is doing. That's how God does it. So the second reason why God moves suddenly, again, is people are prepared. That means they've been prepared by God. And thirdly, not always, but definitely, as God prepares us, it almost goes in hand with the preparation, is people are seeking God. People are seeking God. And what you'll find in those ways is often a remnant of people that's seeking God. And God moves suddenly. And so remember those three. God is ready. People are prepared. People are seeking God. So I kind of want to deal with one of those areas, one of those reasons, and that is the preparation of people being prepared. Amazingly enough, often the preparation of God comes through hardship, disappointment, pain, suffering. And he's prepared, sometimes even discouragement that drives a person to go after God. Where I'm discouraged by what's going on. And so it's like, God, where are you? So it's like, help God. It causes people to seek God, and that's what happens. But the preparation is coming from God. And sometimes people don't know why this is happening to me. And it's like, God is preparing. It's like the clay on the potter's wheel. The Lord is making a vessel. Making it for what? A sudden move. We might not know. Most times we don't know what God's going to do, and then sometimes he shares it. But anyway, I wanted to look at this, the preparation part, how people are being prepared. I want to look at it from the standpoint of Hezekiah, when it said that he moved, or that it says that God had prepared the people. You notice that he prepared the people. That's important, for the thing was done suddenly. And so he prepared the people for the move. And so he moved, and you could see, and hopefully we'll get a chance to get through some of this. And so the first thing I want to look at is, okay, so we have Hezekiah, and then we have his father. His father was Ahaz. And so I want to look at Ahaz, because Ahaz did a lot of damage to God's people. And he wasn't the only one, but he did a lot of damage to God's people that provoked God to anger against his people. And then God began to act out his anger on his people. And so, but it was Ahaz that really brought it to that point. So I want to look at that. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 28. Let's go there. 2 Chronicles 28. And let's start reading. Let's read verses 1 through 4. So I want to look at the condition of the king / government, because he was the government, and those that assisted him and worked with him. And so I think about even our country. It's like government makes a difference in how people develop or fail to develop in morality. Okay, let's look at it. Let's read verses 1 through 4. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. But he did not that which was right in the sight of the Lord, like David, his father. Now, right away, you think, well, maybe he did some right. He just wasn't as right as David. No, that's an understatement, the way he said that. But he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel and made also molten images for Baal. Now, the kings of Israel, none of them were right. They never had a good king. Isn't that something? That's why they went into captivity first, because their decline was quicker than Judah's. And so, because they never had a good leader, never. And so to use the kings of Israel as a comparison, that's not good. That he lived after these wicked kings that ultimately led to the captivity of God's people and the scattering of God's people. That's Ahaz. Verse 3. Moreover, he burnt incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom. Watch it now. After the abomination of the heathen, whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. This is the king of God's people. And he is burning his children as sacrifices, just like the heathens are doing. So this is all happening. Now, he's the government. So if he's doing it, you got to think others are doing it too. Okay, let's read. He sacrificed also in the high places and on the hills and under every green tree. And so he just was a bad character, but he's leading God's people. This is the seed of David, the messianic seed, the Messiah seed. And that's going to eventually lead down to the Messiah. And he's in that lineage, in that genealogy. And he's as wicked, you might say, as they come. And he's leading God's people. Let's move to verse 23, same chapter, verse 23. Let's read that. For he sacrificed unto the gods of Damascus, which smote him. And he said, because the gods of the kings of Syria helped them, therefore will I sacrifice to them, that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him and of all Israel. Isn't that something? So in the chasing of God, he drifted further and further away from God, to the point that now he's worshiping the gods of the people that just beat him up. All right, let's read, continue, verse 24. And Ahaz gathered together the vessels of the house of God and cut in pieces the vessels of the house of God and shut up the doors of the house of the Lord. And he made him altars in every corner of Jerusalem. So he shut the doors to the temple. He stopped the worship of God in the way that God commanded it. Isn't that something? So imagine how God is feeling right now. The way this man is doing and the way he's leading the people in such a way that is offending God on a daily basis. And this is where I'm just painting a picture of how bad their situation was. All right, let's read one more verse here, verse 25. And in every several city of Judah, he made high burn incense unto other gods and provoked to anger the Lord God of his fathers. And so now God is angry. He's angry because of what he did. Let's look at one more thing with Ahaz, his condition, which is the condition of the government. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 10. And let's read that. And King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria. and saw an altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Urijah the priest the fashion of the altar and the pattern of it, according to all the workmanship thereof. And Urijah the priest built according to all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Urijah the priest made it against King Ahaz, came from Damascus. Let's keep reading. And when the king was come from Damascus, the king saw the altar, and the king approached to the altar and offered thereon. And he burnt his burnt offering and his meat offering, and poured his drink offering, and sprinkled the blood of his peace offerings upon the altar. Now look, you can imagine, I mean, God is furious. This man has looked at the world, and he saw how the world did it. Watch the church. Saw how the world did it, and then said, I want to do it like that. And then he took the world's altar and included it in the worship of God. Isn't that something? The very things that you would do to God, he did it the way the world did it to their God. And God is offended, and God is angry. All right, let's look at verse 14. The brazen altar which was before the Lord, from the forefront of the house, from between the altar, house of the Lord, and put it on the north side of the altar. Now look what he took the altar and moved it, put it on the side of the house. This man is bold. Verse 15. King Ahaz commanded Urijah the priest, saying, upon the great altar, burn the morning burnt offering and the evening meat offering, and the king's burnt sacrifice and his meat offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their meat offering and their drink offerings, and sprinkle upon it all the blood of the burnt offering and all the blood of the sacrifice, and the brazen altar shall be for me to inquire by. Whoa. He's implemented this into, we might say, into the church worship. You know, he's using the world's way, he's using his own ideas, and he's offering all of this to God, his way, totally violating what God commanded. So he's worthy of death over and over and over. But thank God for his mercy. So looking at the condition of King Ahaz, the government, you can see that. And so it's a bad place. And I look at where we are right now, and I'm gonna be honest, if I just, in human natural eyes, not even considering God, if I look at America right now, there's no recovery for us. There's no way we're gonna get out of this. The way we're going, things may change. Governmental officials may come in, they will impose certain laws, and it will cause kind of like a little bit of help to come. But then another party will come in and undo it. And that's the way it's going to be, and then progress down the road further. That's how the devil is. He makes it as sure as he can. He makes it where you can't fix it the next time. And so that's how the enemy works. And so just looking at where we are, and it's like, Lord, I don't see any help other than you, other than God. It's the government can't fix this, you know, and yet God can use government. Don't misunderstand. He will use people, but ultimately it's God. It's God. All right. So now with all of this that Ahaz has done and led the people, let's look at the judgment. I want to look at the judgment, God's judgment. So the condition, well, first, before that, let's look at the condition of the nation. So we saw what Ahaz did. So let's look at the condition. Let's go back to chapter 27 of 2nd Chronicles. 2nd Chronicles, chapter 27. And let's just start at verse 1. All right, so this is Jotham, Jotham is Ahaz's father. Okay, and so let's see what kind of example did Jotham leave for Ahaz. Let's read. Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Uzziah did. Howbeit, he entered not into the temple of the Lord, and the people did yet corruptly. Now, I'm going to read that verse out of the New King James Version, verse 2. Verse 2. And he did what was right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Uzziah had done, although he did not enter the temple of the Lord, but still the people acted corruptly. The people continued to be corrupt. So that tells you his father, that his father Uzziah was his father, and Uzziah was a good king until he got strong. And when he got strong, you remember the story how he went into the temple and he was getting ready to offer incense, which is totally forbidden by him. It's for the priests and Aaron's sons. And so he did that. He was about to do that, and the priests came in and challenged him. And when he got angry, then Lord smote him with leprosy, and he had leprosy till the day he died. And so he couldn't live among the people. He had to live in a separate place. And so Jotham pretty much took over the public situation of leading, but Uzziah was still considered the king. But something about his first part of his life, Uzziah's life, it affected Jotham. And you can see that one generation affects the next one. That's the way it does. So in Uzziah, he affected Jotham, but Jotham did not follow the latter end of Uzziah, which was negative. And but Jotham, he was a good king. He was good. So it was a chance for the people, because now they have a ruler that's good. But look at what it said concerning him. The people did yet corruptly. The people, they continued to act corruptly. They didn't change. Even though Jotham, the government, was trying to implement good thoughts, good ideas, and all the things that you did, but it did not affect the people. It didn't affect the people. Why didn't it? Well, God didn't help. God didn't help. You got to know that it's going to take God. When it seems like people are getting worse and protesting worse for worse things, it's like, what are you going to do, Lord? Just God will move suddenly. He will move suddenly. All right. So the government couldn't change the hearts of the people. See, God is the heart changer. If God doesn't change the heart, it's not going to change. If somebody tells you need to change your heart, you tell them I can't, because you can't change your heart. God has to change it. You know, there are reasons in all of this and our participation with God, but God does the changing. We can't change ourselves, and I know we know that. So the government, when it's bad government, it enables corruption when the heart of the people is corrupt. And so bad government, we've had it, and you know, whatever our opinions are, but we know that at times government ain't right. Never been fully right. You know, there's always some kind of corruption going on, but the government, when it is corrupt, it literally opens the door for corruption to prevail. And that's the way it is. You know, when the government is immoral and have immoral deeds, practices, and thoughts, then it gives the immoral